So, good morning, everyone. It's great to see you coming back for this, for our next session. We've got an expert panel here of real experts, and it gives me a chance to tease out some of the theories that I talked about just before and the ideas, and really get a sense from colleagues who work in the county and to hear from their own perspective. So I just wanted to open up the discussion. In terms of the multi-generational workforce, I just wondered if anyone would like to start by giving their experiences of working with different generations in today's workplace. Anyone like to start us off? Yes. Okay.
Oh, I'm happy to start. I realised halfway through your speech that my board of directors, which is also my family, has one of each.
Right.
So we're going to try some reverse mentoring. But I think in the care sector, we often seen as being looking after older people, but actually half of our workforce are supporting working age adults to live gloriously ordinary lives.
Yes.
And they often work better with people of their own generation. So I think it's not just our workforce that we need to look at the different generations, it's the people we're caring for and supporting. So people who are Generation X may not want to be cared for in the same way that baby boomers, because as you say, baby boomers will take whatever we give them and won't complain. Generation X won't, and as we go further down the generations, I think that will be probably worse, different, don't know what the word is, but I do think I've heard a lot this morning that's made me think that we do have multi-generational teams, but by accident rather than by design, and we need to build that in to make it better.
Yes, good. Anyone else want to talk about their experience? Lindsay?
Yeah, I suppose from my point of view, I founded Advisor Dynamics with a genius called Lewis Dean. He's nearly 30 years younger than me. Right. And the interesting sort of dynamic that you've got there, I am Gen X, so miserable, boring, tired, jaded, all of those things that was described as this morning. But I think it's the interesting thing between him and I, and then also looking at the skills gap that we have across this part of the country, is how do we bridge, particularly in the areas that would be deemed as traditional, which we have a lot of, agriculture, energy, manufacturing, is how do we bridge that gap between getting the information out of the older generation, who, let's face it, are about ready to retire. We've skipped a generation because education told them not to go into these sectors. These sectors are now hungry for young people to come back into them. Yeah. And so how do we actually bridge that gap? And I suppose the point there is that's where technology comes in, finding the technologies that enable that information transfer to come from the emotionally intelligent, I think as you put it, down to the digitally intelligent. Yeah. And obviously things like spatial computing, AI, etc., can all benefit.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Do you want to come in there, Guy, before I move to Emma?
Well, I'm the only baby boomer in my business. And in fact, I don't think there are many Gen X in our business as well. My next senior leadership team is made up of millennials and believe it or not, we've got a couple of aspiring Gen Zs working their way through as well. And I have to be honest and say, I saw a lot of what Paul talked about in me. You know, I get frustrated when they turn up at 8:29 when I've been there since 10 to 8, and frustrated when they take 61 minutes for lunch rather than rush back after 20 minutes. So I see this firsthand that I know in myself that there are some frustrations which in today's business environment we just have to get over, and we have to embrace the differences in the generations. And as leaders, and often leaders are baby boomers or Gen X, because of the nature of the experience and the age, we have to learn to be empathetic towards the youngsters that are coming through. We have to recognise that they're the future, and we have to embrace the differences, not try to tolerate them, which is perhaps my own personal thing, and I've got to change as well from that perspective.
Right, it's a big difference.
Big difference,
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that, Guy. Emma, I just wanted to shift the focus a bit. Your experience, of course, is primarily in the creative and hospitality sector. So that whole area of Alex Polizzi and the hotel inspector. I just wondered, from your own perspective, if you've noticed different generations coming forward and what impact different generation views are having on the sector.
Yeah, I see it a lot and often, and I think Lincolnshire's kind of so unique. I'm a yellow belly, born and bred. Couldn't wait to get away, but now so proud to do the work I do in the county. But we've got, we're grafters and we've got a lot of grit in Lincolnshire, but we're also extremely humble and we're a bit too modest. We've been too modest for too long. So, and we have a lot of family businesses, a lot of SMEs, and there's a lot of deep-rooted sort of traditions. And even the next generation of leaders in those family businesses uphold some of the traditions of their fathers and parents. So all of that's got to change, but also the workforce for the future, a lot of that workforce will be based around the academics that have graduated from Lincoln, gone to other cities and worked, and then come back into Lincoln and Lincolnshire. So we've got to work even harder and even smarter at our sustainability agendas that aren't just about carbon capture, but that are also about really good workforce care, as in, you know, flexible working and supporting your workforce to support their community and have good health benefits and to give back. But also that digital advancement and the creative ecology. We have to grow our creative ecology because we can showcase Lincolnshire, we can grow our innovation, but if we haven't got good things to do in the evening and great theatres and a great leisure sector, then that's challenging.
Great, thank you for that. We have got questions coming through, but I've just come to the panel a bit later. I just wanted to find if you could share some examples from your own businesses where you've adapted to a multi-generational workforce, where you've had to change, you think, to make allowances for different ways of viewing or different ways of working preferences. Anyone want to share some real examples that you've used? Emma?
I suppose for me, one of the big pieces of work, I've just worked, Stokes Tea and Coffee have just gone through their B Corp accreditation process. And as a piece of work, that really, that supports every generation within the business because they're principles that everybody in the workforce values. The younger generation slightly more, they're more ahead of the game with that thinking. But the older generations are already there with that sustainable practice of reduce, reuse, recycle, give back to your community, support your colleagues, support your brothers and sisters around you. So something like B Corp is a helpful toolkit in relation to that full audit of your business, that full pathway towards really embedding that great customer care. And for me, customer care is not just the people you're selling your business to and your engaged customers from an external perspective, but your internal customers and the people that you work with inside the business. And you treat them all as if they were gods. That's the ambition.
Right, excellent. Anything?
I think one of the things is we've recruited for attitude, we call it values, for a long time. But we find as younger people are joining, some of the skills that we used to think they had as just by being alive, they don't. Because us baby boomer parents have done everything for them. But what we're finding is that the people that we provide care and support to are happy to pass on their skills to the new worker, provided you make it clear when they arrive that they maybe don't know necessarily how to do the sandwich in the way that the person that you're making it for would like it, which has the added benefit that it gives value back to the life of the person who, as an older person needing personal care, may have lost their value. So I think that's one of the ways we can do it, is to embrace the fact that they don't know how to put the towel back on the towel rail after they've given someone a bath, rather than tut about it. But the other thing we've changed is the way we communicate. And we've changed. We went from let's not talk, let's do it digitally, to going back to our daily check-in is by phone and has to be listened to by the first line manager. And I didn't know why we were doing that. I knew it worked, but now I know why. So when first line managers, who are often not wanting to listen, say, why can't they just text me what I need to know? Well, because you need to listen to them.
To listen, that's interesting. Listening skills, it's interesting how business schools teach presentation skills, they don't teach listening skills. To Lindsay.
What I was going to say, and I was trying to listen there, not just think about my next answer. But one of the things that sort of on a multi-generational approach that I've noticed is actually how incredibly equipped a lot of the young people are with their own self-knowledge and self-taught information that they come with. And I guess that the interesting thing there as just older people, as these people will be older people one day, is it's actually how do you, not teaching them the particular skills they've got, because they actually often know a lot more, particularly in the digital space, than we do, but actually it's teaching them to shape that knowledge and information that they have and do something with it to their own benefit and the benefit of their employer. So I think that's a really interesting
Great
sort of
point.
paradigm between the two generations, or the multi-generations.
Great point. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for that. Guy, can I come to you? Obviously, you're in recruitment, so you're able to see how skills demands are changing. I mean, do you want to say what, well, how are skills demands changing, but also what your predictions are for the workforce of the future?
Blimey. Gosh, don't put me on the spot. I mean, I had some pre-advice about the questions, but thanks, Paul. So, skills, I am a recruiter. I'm predominantly in the food, agriculture and horticulture sector, as Mark mentioned, but share lots of friends that run recruitment businesses across all industries, and I think there's lots of things that are right across society. So you summed it up beautifully in your absolutely fabulous presentation, that tomorrow's workforce are going to be predominantly millennials and Gen Z, and the generation that come after Gen Z, and they are going to be different to the current generation, and they're going to want different things from their employment. So they're not going to be less career focused, but they're going to want their careers to look completely different to the careers that we all had, or a lot of people in this room had, in terms of they don't want to work 60 hours a week. They don't want to work every weekend. They don't want to work in dirt and grime. They want to be communicated with regularly and pleasantly. They don't want people to shout at them. And therefore, the management requirements of all managers in all businesses have got to evolve constantly. And it's got to evolve really quickly, because we don't have 10 years to be ready for the changes. The changes are happening right now, and you need to be ahead of them. And so that's the challenge. I'm working with all the time, loads and loads of clients. There's some great ones in the audience today. But I have to say the general standard of recruitment from a lot of our clients across the sector, and this is echoed by recruitment friends I've got in technology and the health service and all sorts of things, is that generally businesses still recruit pretty poorly. Everybody says that the people are our most important asset, but very few actually deliver on the promise, and the actual quality of recruitment bears that out. You've often got different generations, of course, recruiting and interviewing different generations, and not taking into consideration positively the things that a different generation says, and reflecting therefore on their own personal requirements rather than the future business requirements. So I mean, I could probably talk all day about the recruiting scenarios, and that's not the job today, so embracing the change that we talked about is absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, fabulous. And just while we're on that, Guy, in terms of I'm looking at our Gen Z table over here, in terms of what they'll have to do to compete for jobs, do you see the selection processes being dominated by AI in the future? Will we still have interviews?
Paul, that's a fantastic question. So I reckon as a recruitment owner, I get, and I'm not going to exaggerate, 15 emails a day, and those are the ones that I don't just delete, that try to sell me AI technology for recruiters or for sifting CVs. And we embrace a certain amount of technology, but I believe very strongly that as a recruiter we have to add value to our clients, and therefore there has to be a personal interaction that Melanie talked about, being still fundamental to the workforce going forward. To argue with Elon Musk, yes, of course, AI can do a lot of jobs, but it can't do it in the same way as human beings can do it. And but you're absolutely right. I mean, so I attended a session at LinkedIn 6 months ago, and there was a recruiter there in the technology space who has the ability to screen, he said, 50,000 CVs in fractions of seconds based on certain criteria, and then they would interview the resulting few. But I then asked about some other things that might be required, and of course, they don't. Culture is not necessarily one of the criteria that's on there, and so it will help if you're doing numbers, but I'm not sure it'll help the average SME in terms of how to find the right candidate, because the average SME is not going to be wanting to sift through 50,000 CVs.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, guys. So let me switch to your questions now. I'm just getting my 2-minute sign for here. So who wants to come in with this? What one thing should Lincolnshire do to prepare for a workforce of the future? Who wants to come in with that? The one thing, if you had one thing to say colleagues out here should do to prepare for this future workforce, what should we be doing?
I think it's important to think about motivations and values when you're recruiting. And if you can align the motivations and values of the workforce you're employing with your motivations and values, that's a really big starting point. But I do think every business has to now lean into the cultural ecology, not only to gain that opportunity to be innovative, to that creative thinking, those outside eyes into your business is so helpful, but also really, really embrace the sustainability principles and not just being your carbon capture and measuring your carbon footprint and reporting on that data, but your core responsibility to your local community, where you give back, where you can develop shareholder schemes for your workforce, where you can enable your workforce to have as rich life outside of work as well as in work.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, man. Anyone else to come in with that? One piece of advice, Lindsay.
George Boole, I guess all of you from Lincolnshire know who that is. Be brave and ambitious like he was. The person who created the mathematical underpinning, Boolean logic, that actually underpins all of the computers that we all use every day. We've been talking about actually is from your part of the country. So don't worry if you come from Lincolnshire or wherever it might be. You're incredibly talented people. Embrace the young people. Share the multi-generational skills that you've all got.
Yeah.
Older people know more and have experience. Younger people have the dynamism and drive. Put the two together and you'll be an unstoppable force.
Fantastic. That's a great way to almost end our session. But if I could just ask one more question. Elon Musk, that shy and retiring multi-billionaire, made a prediction last week, didn't he? He said in the future, AI is going to do every job, every single job, unless you want one. What are your views about that? From your sectors, what do you think? Because obviously, from your perspective, Melanie, care, can you see this taking jobs in your sector?
I can see this changing the job. I would like to see our care workers become support coordinators, so they embrace digital things we've not even thought about yet, and AI, to allow them the time to do the one thing that the new world isn't going to do. And actually, COVID proved this. When we had to wear gloves and we couldn't hold people's hands, we couldn't give the support that people needed, particularly when they were very distressed or when they were about to pass away. So we actually broke the rules. We took our gloves off and held hands. But what I would like to see for the care workforce of the future is someone who knows what all the digital things they can use, the AI, so they can leave someone knowing that the right TV program is going to come on magically, but they then spend the time sitting, sharing the EQ from the person they're with, learning how to be attentive and holding hands. And I can't imagine that is going to disappear. But I do think that actually Mr. Musk is probably right. You may only need to do the jobs you want to do, but I actually think the care work is a job that people would want to do if they knew about it. And maybe my sector needs to spend more time talking to these guys to say, I've done lots of really, really exciting jobs. I've worked in Silicon Valley, I've done all kinds of things, but I have never done anything that has left me more fulfilled than hands-on, skin-to-skin personal care.
Wonderful. And on that message, I think, on that wonderful note, I think we should say thank you to our first panel. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you. Well done.